We are here with Steve Reynolds from Imagine Communication on the Friday Fireside. Stephen, how are you?
Doing great, Rick. Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So where exactly are you?
I'm in Denver. I work in the Imagine office here in downtown Denver, but I'm at my house right now, kind of obviously. Denver's still under a safer at home order, and so we're all still working from home.
I get that, as am I. I'm on my little place in Maryland. Behind you on the wall around your window, are those patents?
Yeah, they are. They are. I've been very fortunate over the course of my career to work on a bunch of groundbreaking projects and have a couple of patent plaques to show for that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just a little bit about that so people know. You've been at Imagine for a few years now. You are president, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm the president of Imagine Communications. Actually came over to Imagine when it was still Harris Broadcast back in 2013.
Oh.
And so I've been here through the entire transition as we've moved this business from being primarily a hardware and equipment business towards being much more of a software service and even managed service business. That's been the evolution that we've been on for the last couple of years, and it's been a lot of fun.
Terrific. Okay, so prior to Imagine, you were at Comcast, right?
I was at Comcast during kind of the 2007 to 2013. Interesting and very analogous to what I've been through at Imagine over the last couple of years. When I joined Comcast, it was still primarily an analog cable provider, and so I was there through the entire digital transition and the early days of the development and launch of the X1 platform. So in many ways, similar to what I've been working on here at Imagine.
Now, if memory serves, and I think I probably met you at Comcast in the early part of your career there, the X1 platform was a fairly long time in development, right?
A couple of years.
Yeah.
Obviously a big change, right, for the way that those guys operate that system. And the early stages of X1 were really just converting the entire network over to a digital and IP-based network. Right. So there was a lot of groundwork to do in order to get that platform launched.
A lot of work to do. I know that I tell my clients and my friends that 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted to do business with Comcast, the issue was usually they can do it themselves, so why do they need you? But these days, speed tends to be the deciding factor. If you've got something that you're doing and they happen to need it, or anybody happens to need it, that's where you succeed, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you know, the Comcast crew has continued to do a fantastic job and evolve on the platforms, you know, that were launched 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I give those guys a lot of credit, and they're a great provider.
Well, I'm a big fan of theirs, and I have a lot of friends up there. So tell us a little bit, what does Imagine do? Because I sometimes have difficulty figuring it out. Sorry.
Well, it's divided into three primary business units. Where a lot of customers are most familiar with Imagine is on the playout side of the business. We are one of the companies that provides broadcast and playout systems for the television industry.
Okay.
We build software and work with equipment suppliers like HP and Cisco and Arista to create broadcast centers, production facilities, playout facilities, you know, large scale operations that are focused on making and distributing television signals.
Moving a lot of stuff all at once.
Yeah, absolutely.
And more now.
And moving it to different platforms, right? That's really been the focus for the last couple of years as our customers, and you know, our customers are people like Disney and Discovery and Turner and Comcast, right? Those are the guys that actually make a lot of the television channels that consumers want to engage with. But it's not just broadcast television anymore. So increasingly our customers are looking at how they can create content, package content, and distribute content across all of the platforms that they need to hit in order for consumers to engage with that content. That also means doing both linear and nonlinear, right? So linear broadcast and linear OTT, still very important pieces of the business, but moving towards on demand and moving towards time shifted television are things that all of our customers are pursuing at this point in time, because it helps them reach the broadest possible audience with the content that they have.
Sure. The viewers
Again,
don't want to watch it when you want them to watch it. They want to watch it when they want to watch it.
That's absolutely right. But there's a cost of production and a cost of origination there that has to be optimized. And that's a big piece of what our customers come to Imagine for. They want to buy systems that scale up for production, that scale up for distribution, and most importantly, that allow them to do origination, play out across all of the platforms they need to hit. And so a lot of our focus for the last couple of years has been on building scale and building better automation into those platforms so that the cost from the production and the cost from the broadcasting side doesn't go up with the number of platforms that you need to distribute to. We're trying to help our customers scale that up better and become much more efficient at automating that distribution across all those platforms.
Now, you also work in the advertising space, right?
Yeah, that's the second
serving up advertising.
That's the second big piece of the business, which is advertising systems. We sell the platforms that people use to traffic and manage the inventory that's in those broadcast channels. So in many cases, our customers are not only buying the origination system from us, they're also buying the monetization system. So, big customers like Comcast, Disney, NBC, Universal, guys like that buy advertising systems from Imagine that allow them to manage all of the inventory that's available. And again, that could be linear or non-linear, could be broadcast, could be OTT.
Right.
They're looking to Imagine to help them manage that inventory and increasingly to optimize that inventory. As you bring together all of those consumers across so many different platforms and so many delivery models, you need a way to aggregate that entire audience and make it available to the ad system, right? So that you can optimize the inventory and optimize the placements and ultimately drive the best possible yield out of the advertising inventory that you have and across the audience that you've got available.
Okay, we're going to put a pin in the advertising because I want to come back to that. So what's the third big thing that Imagine does?
The third piece of the business is our networking and infrastructure business. Imagine, and a lot of this draws on the legacy of the Harris assets, but we still produce both hardware and software products that our customers are using as they transition towards IP. We still do sell a lot of SDI equipment. There's still a lot of production that gets done all around the world using SDI and HD SDI. But increasingly, we're seeing that move towards IP. There was a new set of standards that were developed over the last couple of years, the SMPTE 2110 and 2022 standards, which govern how video is produced in an IP world. And Imagine's been one of the leaders in that area. We actually, really helped to start the 2110 initiative. Imagine's been a key part of the AIMS initiative, which is the Alliance for IP Media Solutions. So we've really tried to drive that forward, and we're seeing that take root now. We've got a bunch of big facilities around the world where we're helping customers convert towards all IP, and increasingly production events, right? So live sports, when those eventually come back online, and live production are moving towards IP, and Imagine plays a key role in developing and deploying that technology.
So it's interesting. A lot of what you are doing is fueling a lot of what we are doing, which is consuming massive amounts of television over networks that sometimes get strained. But I remember having a conversation with our friend Bob Green a couple of months ago, and he was talking about, obviously, Liberty Global, primarily European, a little bit of South American, mostly European, and how they were pleased that they were able to get Netflix to sort of scale down, I'll use the word density, of their files so that they could get more through the systems without the systems crashing. You're busy guys right now, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Even with what's been going on with COVID, there's still an awful lot of project work going on. I think in Q2, we've got about 150 projects going on all around the world with customers, and it spans all three of those businesses, the production side of the business, the channel origination side of the business, and advertising. But we've been able to keep a lot of our projects on track, even through the lockdown and the various challenges that we've had in different regions of the world, with being able to get access to sites, being able to go live with customer systems, and being able to support customers as they move through these transitions.
Got it. All right. So I want to come back to advertising because it has been a thread that kind of started earlier, and you said you watched some of the other chats. Yeah, your light went off and came back on again. Hello. Anyway, there's an indication that in Q3, the advertising world is going to sort of pick up again. We know that politics is going to come in and around about Labor Day, right? But there's an indication certainly auto's got to come back, retail, consumer packages going to come back. And we might find ourselves with almost a seller's market from the perspective of the media companies, where they got more people wanting to buy advertising than they've got inventory to sell. Now, a lot of that falls to folks like Imagine to kind of manage their way through all that. What does that mean for you? What does Q3 and Q4 mean to you? Maybe let's stick on the advertising side, because that's where my focus has been recently.
Yeah, sure. So we definitely see the same kind of trends towards early recovery of advertising that you're talking about. In previous downturns, advertising has always been one of the things that is a leading indicator of recovery.
Yeah, you got to get people to the store before you can get them to buy anything.
That's exactly right. There's no question that advertising was down in Q2. Travel and leisure was way off. Discretionary spending was way off. The automotive segment was off. As those businesses reopen and as those brands start to engage with consumers to try to get them to come back to the market, you're going to see an uptick in advertising, right? It's just kind of a natural business cycle that investment in advertising will happen first. Now, the way Imagine helps with that, we're helping our customers in two different ways. We're helping them manage that inventory, making sure that they've got the inventory across all of their different platforms. And again, that could be linear, it could be nonlinear, could be broadcast, could be OTT. We're trying to make sure that our customers have the tools that they need in order to manage all of that inventory.
Right.
The better you can manage it, the more efficiently you can sell it, and the higher the yield that you can get out of the inventory that's available.
So your customers are primarily on the sell side, right? Not on the buy side?
Our customers are almost entirely on the sell side of that equation. Our customers are the guys that control that inventory.
Yeah.
It's the broadcasters, it's the cable networks, it's the big international players. Those are the guys that we work with, the companies that control the inventory and that are building their business on top of their ability to monetize that inventory. The second piece of what we're doing right now, though, is working with customers to help them better optimize that inventory. So, a lot of the platforms that we have broadly deployed right now are really about automation. It's about how to build scale in the advertising transactions.
Yep.
Where customers are now looking is how do they better optimize? And optimization means a couple of different things. One, it means making sure that you're getting the highest yield out of your inventory. And we've got a product called Game Plan that customers can use to build multiple models of how they want to sell that inventory. And this is becoming even more important as we kind of come into this recovery phase, because it's not clear that buyers are going to buy the same way that they were back in December of last year. A lot has been learned on the buy side too about how to target the right audiences, how to buy the right viewership, how to buy the right programs and the right assets, right? People are learning about this on a rapid basis, and the ability to use tools like Game Plan, which allow you to create multiple parallel scenarios and then look at which one actually gives you the highest yield on the inventory, is an emerging area. It's something that a lot of our customers are starting to investigate because they do see the change in buying dynamics.
Let me ask about Game Plan. That's sort of interesting. I'll make a phrase that maybe doesn't apply, but can that be done on the fly?
It's actually done as part of the planning cycle.
Okay, so it's a little bit before you sort of set up different scenarios, planning different scenarios, if this, then that.
That's exactly right. And we've got customers that are using Game Plan already in that fashion, where they're running multiple if this, then that type scenarios when they're doing their planning for the inventory. And that usually happens a day or even 2 days in advance of locking down the way that the inventory is going to get sold. But because we run game plan in AWS, right? So it's a cloud hosted application, and customers can run, a number of scenarios. They can run potentially dozens of scenarios if they want, to be able to model out different ways of selling the inventory. And that's effective. I mean, it's producing good increases in yield, high single digits, even up into the double digits of yield increases that customers are seeing by using those advanced planning algorithms.
Cool. We had Evan Tracy on a couple of weeks ago. You might have watched that. He's from National Media, and they buy a fair amount of advertising for the GOP. Not my side of the political spectrum, mind you, but nonetheless, he buys a lot. And he makes the point that when you need that ad tonight, you need that ad tonight. And you might not have planned for that ad tonight. So I guess with Game Plan, they could actually model the possibility that the whoops, what if?
This is exactly right.
That's a technical term. You're allowed to use that now. Whoops, what if?
But that's exactly right. They can look at attitudinal changes on both the buy side and on the viewership side, right? Around what might happen, and have scenarios planned out that if something does swing, if there's a political event and that swings the way advertising is going to get bought, if there's a big sports event and that changes the way that inventory is going to get consumed, they can model those things in and have scenarios that are ready to help optimize yield.
Or in his case, some local politician managed to stick his size 12 foot directly in his mouth, and all of a sudden you can't use that ad that you were going to use anymore. The whoops, what if?
Yep, there's certainly scenarios that people need to look into.
There we go. And whoops, what if? Guess what? We have actually used up our time. So Stephen Reynolds from Imagine Communication, ex-Comcast, and by the way, ex-Open TV.
Yeah, that's exactly
That
right.
might have actually been where I met you, back when I was trying to figure out what interactive TV actually was. We still don't know. But anyway, Stephen,
we'll get there someday.
Thank you very much for your time. This will air on Friday.
Great, Rick. Great to talk to you, and thanks so much for the opportunity.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.